All right, so before I start the tutorial using this image from Creative Shop Plate 44, I want to give a quick review of these nail polish remover pads from Nicole Diary that I received for review. And they're just lint-free pads, and I think they're pretty typical of most of them. But I really quite like these. It's the first time I've used them, and I found a variety of uses for them. And obviously, you can remove polish and gel polish with them. I find them particularly good for when you want to remove stamping mistakes. If you soak these in an acetone and just do a really quick swipe on your nail to remove the stamping, that works really well and doesn't leave any fibers behind. And that only works if you top coat before stamping, and that won't mess up your base, but that works really well for that. But my favorite way to use them is to clean images that are really deeply engraved or sharply engraved. And when you clean up with a regular cotton round like this, it picks up a lot of fibers that you have to clean, which you can do with the lint roller or tape before you stamp again. But I found a really effective method is to wrap that lint-free pad around a cotton round, and then when you soak it in acetone and go over it, like I think you can hear that on video, but you can hear where it sort of rasps over the sharply engraved images, and that would normally tear up the cotton fiber a lot. But with these, I mean, it still picks up the excess polish. I mean, it looked clean, but obviously there was still some left over. But it doesn't leave any of those annoying fibers around. That's really annoying when you miss one and you stamp and you see it on the stamper and you have to remove it and try again. So I quite like these pads for that reason. All right, and this is the second part of this tutorial. So I'm going to stamp this image using my usual black Del Corazon Kaleidoscope, which I'm getting really low on. So I'm going to scrape and pick up. Okay. Right. And then I'm going to move on to the second part of this, which is to color in that image for reverse stamping here. And what I'm using to color in today is Vapid Grape Stomp, which is a gorgeous purple hollow. And I'm going to use an image I've already stamped so that it's dry enough to go over. I'm just going to put a couple of big drops of polish down. Then I'm going to this time use a brush, because I think for this image, I think the brush is going to work better and quicker than a dotting tool for this. So and this is why I don't do reverse stamping that often, because I'm already bored and find this coloring in of the lines really quite tedious. And I haven't even finished the first one yet. So and there are a ton of people who seem to do an amazing job with reverse stamping manis, who color in perfectly and seem to have no trouble with applying them and ending up with bubbles. And for me, reverse stamping is not something that I'm that good at. I think because I don't have enough practice at it. But I do prefer doing it directly on the stamper like this because I find that application is easier. But some people find it easier to do it on a mat and then put a clear coat and make a full decal out of it. But I find decals much more difficult to apply, and then just leaving it directly on the stamper and just stamping it right onto your nail. And then the other thing that annoys me is I always end up coloring in way more than I need. Like right now, I probably didn't need to do those outsides because this is going to be way bigger than I need to cover my nail, especially because I just filed them down. But and the reason why I like doing it on a clear stamper is you can turn it over and look at it from the side that you would be stamping, and you can really see if you've missed any spots. I mean, you'll be able to tell where you made your mistakes and went outside the line, but usually you can try to avoid those when you stamp it on the nail, but or correct your mistakes and go fill in the missed spots kind of thing. But that's what I really like about using the clear stampers. Anyway, that's part 2, and I'll be back in a little bit to show you the application portion. Okay, so in the meanwhile, I have prepped my nails with 2 coats of Bluebird lacquer. I'd hit that from the original Rainbows collection, which is a great water marbling collection. And I did that while I was waiting for the rest of these to finish drying. So after the polish dried, I put a coat of nail foil glue on because I find it much easier to work with because you don't have to worry about the timing than something like a sticky base coat like Orly Bonder. Because I haven't put any clear coat or top coat or anything on the stamper itself. All I did was do the coloring, let it dry. So now my nail is completely dry, and the what's on the stamper is completely dry. So because of the nail foil glue, I can just line it up and press down. And have that stick to my nail. Okay, So I'm gonna clean that off on the excess. And as you will notice, there's a little bit of staining from the Grape Stomp, which if I thought about it, which I should have known was going to happen, but it doesn't bother me because I know that off my other stampers at least, it will disappear in a little bit, in a few days, a couple weeks, something, depending upon how bad it is. But I'm not that worried about it. If you are concerned about staining, then I'd recommend not using really pigmented polishes to do the reverse stamping on clear stampers. So anyway, so then what I do is I take this tool, which a lot of people have asked me about. It's a double-ended tool. It's got a thin little brush on one side and this slanted pointy tool on the other side. And I figured out it's not B-O-A-N, it's B-Q-A-N, and it's actually discontinued. I had quite a few people ask me about that, and I wasn't able to find it. Nobody else could either because it's discontinued. But the good news is that Carly Pierce of Lantern and Wren was able to source it, and she's now carrying this tool in her store. So if you want something like this, because what I use it for, one of the things I use it for is, so after I've put this on, all I do is I go around with this tool and I just sort of press into the areas around my nail and just sort of cut off the excess. And I find this a lot easier than using cuticle scissors or any other kind of scissors, or using just acetone in a brush, because you can get out about 95% of the excess and leave very little cleanup if you do this cutting portion well. So, as you can see there, so just want to make sure I get rid of as much as possible. And if you prefer, you can sort of tuck the stray bits under the nail or around the side to give it a little extra coverage. So now I would go in with a cleanup brush and acetone and clean that up, and then apply top coat, and then this would be the final result. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thanks.